What if I told you that a 7th century prophet, a 17th century mathematician, a 20th century physicist, and a visionary inventor all discovered the same fundamental truth about reality, but from completely different angles? And what if this discovery is something you use every single day without even realizing it? This is the story of resonance, frequency, and vibration, the invisible force that connects everything in our universe. But this isn't just a story about science. It's a detective story spanning 1,400 years, where each clue leads to the next, and where the final revelation changes everything you think you know about reality itself. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why your smartphone works, why bridges can collapse from wind, why the universe itself might be conscious, and why these four minds separated by continents, centuries, and belief systems all arrived at the exact same conclusion. So let's begin at the beginning, in a cave in the desert, with a man who would change the course of human history. The year is 610 CE. In a cave called Hira, carved into the mountainside above Mecca, a 40-year-old merchant sits in deep meditation. His name is Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and he's been coming to this cave for years, seeking answers to questions that torment him. Why does the universe exist? What is the nature of reality? Why is there something rather than nothing? These aren't just spiritual questions. They're the same questions that would drive Newton, Tesla, and Einstein more than 1,000 years later. And in this cave, Muhammad begins to receive answers, not through mathematics or laboratory experiments, but through direct revelation. Now, I need you to set aside whatever you think you know about religion for a moment. We're not here to debate theology. We're here to examine something far more interesting, the scientific insights embedded in 7th century spiritual teachings, insights that wouldn't be validated by physics for another 300 years. Let me give you a specific example. In the Quran, chapter 21, verse 33, there's a statement that everything in the heavens and earth moves in an orbital path, not just the obvious things like the sun and moon. Everything, every atom, every particle, constantly in motion, following curved paths through space. In the 7th century, this was a bizarre claim. The dominant view, inherited from Aristotle, was that the earth was stationary and the heavens rotated around it. Objects on Earth were thought to be fundamentally still unless forced to move. The idea that literally everything is in constant orbital motion was revolutionary. But here's where it gets fascinating. Muhammad didn't just say things move. He described reality as being composed of layers of vibration, all interconnected. In Islamic cosmology, there's this concept called dida, often translated as remembrance or glorification. But the root meaning is closer to rhythmic repetition or vibration. The Quran repeatedly states that everything in existence performs dhikr: mountains, trees, thunder, even stones. To a medieval mind, this was understood metaphorically, but Muhammad insisted it was literal. In Hadith collections, he's recorded as saying, "I can hear what you cannot hear. The heavens creak under the weight of angels, and rightly so. There is not a space of 4 fingers in the heavens where there is not an angel in prostration." What's he describing? A universe so densely packed with vibrating energy that there's no empty space anywhere. Modern quantum field theory tells us the same thing. The vacuum of space isn't empty. It's seething with quantum fluctuations, with virtual particles popping in and out of existence, with zero-point energy vibrating at every point in space-time. Muhammad taught that everything has a tasbih, a natural frequency of praise. Different beings vibrate at different frequencies, but all are connected in a cosmic symphony. He taught his followers to listen to nature, to observe patterns, to understand that the Creator could be known through the rhythms and frequencies of creation. Here's a specific incident that blew my mind when I researched this. In multiple Hadith accounts, Muhammad describes hearing the glorification of stones in his hand. Companions report that if you listened carefully near the Prophet, you could sometimes hear a faint buzzing sound, like bees coming from pebbles he held. Superstition? Maybe. But consider this, all matter vibrates at the molecular level. Piezoelectric crystals produce measurable electrical charges when compressed. If Muhammad had unusually sensitive hearing, which several accounts suggest he did, could he have been detecting frequencies most humans cannot perceive? We know that some people can hear electrical transformers. Humming, can sense electromagnetic fields, can perceive infrasonic vibrations that most of us are completely deaf to. Was Muhammad describing actual physical phenomena using the only vocabulary available in 7th century Arabia? Let's look at another example. Muhammad taught that everything in existence comes in pairs, positive and negative, male and female, day and night, matter and antimatter. Wait, antimatter? That's not in the Quran, is it? Actually, it is. Chapter 51, verse 49. And of all things we created two mates. Perhaps you will remember. In Arabic, the word zawjayn means pairs or couples, but it also implies complementary opposites. For 1,400 years, this was understood to mean biological reproduction. But in 1932, Carl Anderson discovered the positron, the antimatter opposite of the electron. Suddenly, this verse took on new meaning. Every particle has an antiparticle, every charge has an opposite, every field has a complementary field. The universe is structured in pairs of opposing vibrations. Muhammad also spoke extensively about the seven heavens, which traditional interpreters understood as literal layers of sky. But the Arabic word samawat also means levels, frequencies, or states of being. What if Muhammad was describing not physical layers, but different frequencies of reality, different vibrational states accessible through different levels of consciousness? Modern physics tells us that matter exists in different states depending on vibrational frequency. At low frequencies, you get solids. Increase the vibration, you get liquids. Increase it further, gases. Even further, plasma. At extreme frequencies, matter breaks down into pure energy. Same substance, different vibrational states. But here's the most important part. The insight that connects Muhammad directly to Newton, Tesla, and Einstein, the concept of resonance between the human being and the cosmos. Muhammad taught that humans are created in tune with the universe, that our natural state is one of harmony with cosmic rhythms. He established 5 daily prayers timed to solar positions, not arbitrary times, but moments when the Earth's rotation creates specific energetic states: dawn, midday, afternoon, sunset, night. These aren't just symbolic. They correspond to measurable shifts in electromagnetic fields, in light frequency, in the Earth's Schumann resonance. He taught breathing techniques, rhythmic movements, and repeated phrases, all designed to create resonance between the individual and the cosmos. When thousands of Muslims pray in unison, performing identical movements in identical rhythms, they're creating a massive resonance system. Their heartbeats synchronize, their brainwaves entrain. They become, quite literally, a single oscillating field. Muhammad understood something profound. Consciousness itself might be a frequency, and by tuning that frequency, you can resonate with different layers of reality. He taught that angels exist at frequencies humans cannot normally perceive, that jinn exist at a different vibrational state than matter, that paradise and hell are not places but states of resonance, eternal harmony, or eternal dissonance. Was he speaking metaphorically? Perhaps. But the mathematical frameworks wouldn't exist to test these ideas for over a millennium. That framework would come from a man sitting under a tree in England, watching an apple fall, and asking a question that would unlock the mathematics of the universe itself. The year is 1666. Isaac Newton is 23 years old, and Cambridge University has just closed due to the bubonic plague. Newton retreats to his family's farm in Woolsthorpe, and during the next 18 months he will have the most productive period of scientific discovery in human history. Everyone knows the legend of Newton and the apple. Gravity, right? The force that pulls objects to Earth. But that's not the revelation Newton had. The gravity part was obvious, things fall down. The Greeks knew that. What Newton realized was far stranger and far more important. He realized that the same force pulling the apple down was holding the moon in orbit around Earth. The moon was falling, constantly falling, but moving sideways fast enough that it kept missing Earth. Gravity wasn't just about falling. It was about vibration, oscillation, and resonance on a cosmic scale. But Newton's obsession wasn't really gravity. His true obsession was light, sound, and vibration. And this is the part of Newton's work that hardly anyone talks about, the part that leads directly to Tesla and Einstein. Newton's Principia Mathematica, published in 1687, is famous for the laws of motion and universal gravitation. But Book 2 of the Principia is entirely about wave motion, vibration, and the propagation of oscillations through different media. This is where Newton develops the mathematical framework for understanding resonance. Let me explain what Newton discovered with a simple experiment you can try right now. If you have two pendulums of the exact same length hanging from the same beam, start one swinging and watch what happens. At first, only one pendulum moves, but gradually the second pendulum starts to swing, even though you never touched it. Eventually, the first pendulum stops, and all its energy has transferred to the second one. Then the process reverses. This is resonance. The vibration travels through the beam, and because both pendulums have the same natural frequency, they exchange energy back and forth in a perfect dance. Newton didn't just observe this, he mathematized it. He created equations that could predict exactly how long the energy transfer would take, how much energy would be lost to friction, how the frequency would change with pendulum length. But then Newton noticed something that haunted him for the rest of his life. If you have many pendulums of different lengths all hanging from the same beam, and you start one swinging, something magical happens. Each pendulum starts to swing a little bit, each at its own natural frequency. But over time, they all gradually synchronize. They find a common rhythm, even though they all started different. Newton called this the harmony of oscillations, and he became convinced it was the fundamental principle underlying all of nature. He applied this to sound. Newton calculated the speed of sound by treating air as a medium for propagating vibrations. He was off by about 15%. He didn't account for heat, but the framework was correct. Sound is vibration, and it travels because molecules resonate with each other, passing the vibration along. Then Newton did something radical. He took a glass prism and split white light into a rainbow of colors. This experiment is famous, but what's not famous is what Newton concluded from it. He didn't just see pretty colors, he saw different frequencies. Newton proposed that light might be composed of vibrating particles, each color corresponding to a different rate of vibration. Red vibrates slowly, violet vibrates rapidly. White light is all frequencies vibrating together. This was controversial. Most scientists believed light was a continuous substance, not a vibration. But Newton's mathematics worked. He could predict how light would refract through different materials by treating it as a wave with specific frequencies. Now, here's where Newton connects directly to Muhammad's insights. Newton became obsessed with the idea that the entire universe might be a single resonant system. He believed that gravity itself might be a kind of vibration propagating through an invisible medium he called the ether. In Newton's private notebooks documents, not published until centuries after his death, he describes the universe as God's sensorium, a vast interconnected field where every particle affects every other particle through vibration and resonance. He writes, "Does it not appear from phenomena that there is a being incorporeal, living, intelligent, omnipresent, who in infinite space sees the things themselves intimately and thoroughly perceives them and comprehends them wholly by their immediate presence to himself?" Newton is describing the same thing Muhammad described, a universe where everything is connected through vibration, where consciousness and matter are both frequencies in the same cosmic field. But Newton had one massive advantage over Muhammad: mathematics. He could prove his insights with numbers. Newton's second law of motion, force equals mass times acceleration, is actually a statement about frequency. Acceleration is the change in velocity over time, which is the second derivative of position. What Newton discovered is that when you apply a periodic force to an object, the object responds most dramatically when the force frequency matches the object's natural frequency. This is why soldiers break step when crossing bridges. If they all march in rhythm, and that rhythm happens to match the bridge's natural frequency, the oscillations can build and build until the bridge literally tears itself apart. This isn't theoretical. In 1831, soldiers marching across the Broughton Suspension Bridge in Manchester caused it to collapse through resonance. In 1850, soldiers marching across the Angers Bridge in France created resonant oscillations that killed 226 people. Newton understood this danger. He calculated the natural frequencies of various structures and warned that periodic forces, wind, marching, even music, could destroy massive structures if the frequency matched. But Newton also saw the opportunity. If you could control frequency, you could transfer energy with perfect efficiency. A tiny push at the right frequency could build massive oscillations. A mother pushing a child on a swing knows this intuitively. Push randomly and you waste energy. Push at the swing's natural frequency, its resonant frequency, and the child soars higher and higher with minimal effort. Newton spent years trying to find the resonant frequency of the solar system. He believed that if you could discover the natural oscillation of the planets, you could predict their positions perfectly forever. He was right, but the mathematics was beyond him. It would take computers running Einstein's equations to finally calculate the chaotic resonances of planetary orbits. Here's the most important thing Newton discovered, the insight that connects him to Tesla. Resonance allows energy to be transferred across distance with no physical contact. When you strike a tuning fork and hold it near another tuning fork of the same frequency, the second fork begins to vibrate even though they're not touching. The vibration travels through air, and when it matches the natural frequency of the second fork, resonance occurs and energy transfers. Newton realized this principle applies to everything. Light resonating with matter to produce heat, sound resonating with eardrums to produce hearing, gravity resonating through space to produce orbital motion. But Newton lacked the technology to demonstrate this at scale. He couldn't generate powerful, controlled vibrations. He couldn't measure tiny oscillations precisely. He couldn't transmit energy wirelessly across long distances. Those breakthroughs would have to wait for electricity. And for a man who thought in lightning. Part 3. Tesla's objections with the Numban 3 frequencies. And the earthquake Macinty and once Cain Nikola Tesla was born during a lightning storm in 1856 in what is now Croatia. According to legend, the midwife declared this a bad omen. The child would be a creature of darkness. Tesla's mother replied, "No, he will be a child of light." Both predictions came true. Tesla's mind worked differently than other people's. He could visualize inventions in complete detail, run them through their paces in his imagination, test them for months, and then build them perfectly the first time without blueprints or prototypes. He thought in 3 dimensions, in motion, in vibration and frequency, and he was completely, utterly obsessed with the number 3. Tesla walked around buildings 3 times before entering. He used exactly 18 napkins to clean his dining area, 18 divisible by 3. He stayed in hotel rooms with numbers divisible by 3. When asked about this obsession, Tesla said, "If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe." What did he mean? Tesla believed that 3, 6, and 9 were fundamental frequencies of reality itself. In his view, all other numbers were expressions of these 3 base frequencies, and he believed that by understanding and manipulating these frequencies, you could control energy, matter, and potentially even time and space. Tesla arrived in America in 1884 with 4 cents in his pocket, a book of poetry, and calculations for a flying machine. He went to work for Thomas Edison, who was pushing direct current electricity DC power, where electricity flows in one continuous direction. But Tesla had a different vision. He saw electricity not as a flow, but as a vibration. Alternating current AC power, where electricity oscillates back and forth at a specific frequency. Edison thought this was idiotic. Why would you want electricity that vibrates? Just send it in one direction from the generator to the device. Simple, but Tesla understood what Edison didn't: resonance. If you could make electricity oscillate at the right frequency, you could transmit it over vast distances with minimal loss. You could step voltage up and down using transformers which only work with AC. You could create rotating magnetic fields to power motors without any physical connection. The key was finding the right frequency. Too low, and the electricity would dissipate. Too high, and it would radiate away as electromagnetic waves. Tesla calculated that the optimal frequency for electrical transmission was between 50 and 60 cycles per second, 50 to 60 Hz. Why? Because this frequency resonates perfectly with the inductance and capacitance of copper wire in practical power transmission distances. At this frequency, the electrical oscillation stays coherent, transfers through transformers efficiently, and doesn't require massive amounts of insulation. Today, half the world uses 50 Hz AC power and half uses 60 Hz. Every device you plug into a wall socket is powered by electricity, vibrating at exactly the frequency Tesla calculated in the 1880s. But Tesla didn't stop with power transmission. He became obsessed with the question Newton had asked centuries before. Could you transmit energy across distance with no wires at all, purely through resonance? In 1891, Tesla invented the Tesla coil, a resonant transformer circuit that produces high-voltage, high-frequency alternating current. When tuned properly, a Tesla coil creates a powerful electromagnetic field that oscillates at specific frequencies. And if you have a second coil tuned to the exact same frequency nearby, it will receive power wirelessly. Tesla demonstrated this at the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. He powered light bulbs in his hands with no wires connected to them. The electricity traveled through the air, resonating between his transmitting coil and the receiving circuits in the bulbs. The crowd thought it was magic. Tesla knew it was resonance, the same principle Newton had discovered with pendulums, now applied to electromagnetic fields. But Tesla went further, much further, and this is where his story becomes almost unbelievable. In 1898, Tesla was working in his Manhattan laboratory, experimenting with mechanical resonance. He had built a small electromechanical oscillator, basically a piston driven by compressed air that could vibrate at variable frequencies. Tesla attached this device to a steel pillar that ran down through the building into bedrock. Then he started slowly adjusting the frequency, looking for the resonant frequency of the pillar. At first, nothing happened. The device buzzed quietly. Then, at a specific frequency, the pillar began to hum. The hum intensified. The pillar started to shake. The shaking became violent, trembling. The floor began to vibrate. Objects rattled off shelves. Windows cracked. People in the neighboring buildings felt their walls shaking. They poured into the streets, convinced an earthquake was happening. Police were called. Reporters showed up. Tesla realized that he had matched the resonant frequency not just of the pillar, but of the entire building. The vibrations were building exponentially through resonance. If he let it continue, the building would shake itself apart. He grabbed a hammer and smashed the oscillator just as police burst through his door. Later, Tesla claimed he could have destroyed the entire building with a device that fit in his coat pocket and used less power than a light bulb. The energy came not from the device, but from resonance, from matching the natural frequency of the structure and letting it tear itself apart. This incident gave Tesla an idea that would obsess him for the rest of his life. If a tiny oscillator could shake a building by matching its frequency, what if you could find the resonant frequency of the Earth itself? In 1899, Tesla moved to Colorado Springs and built a massive laboratory with a 200-foot tower. His goal was insane: to use the entire planet as a resonant circuit, to transmit power wirelessly to anywhere on Earth, to tap into the Earth's natural electromagnetic oscillations. Tesla knew from atmospheric electrical measurements that the Earth had a natural frequency rate at which electromagnetic waves circled the globe, trapped between the surface and the ionosphere. He estimated this frequency at around 8 Hz. Though he didn't have equipment sensitive enough to measure it precisely. We now call this the Schumann resonance, after Winfried Schumann, who calculated it mathematically in 1952. The primary Schumann resonance is 7.83 Hz, with harmonics at 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, and 45 Hz. These are the natural frequencies at which the Earth's atmosphere vibrates. And here's what's absolutely wild. The human brain produces alpha waves at 8 to 12 Hz. Our brains naturally oscillate at the same frequency as the planet. Coincidence? Tesla didn't think so. He believed that consciousness itself was a resonant phenomenon, that human awareness was literally the Earth becoming conscious of itself. In Colorado Springs, Tesla conducted experiments that have never been fully replicated. He generated massive electrical oscillations, timed to resonate with the Earth's natural frequency. He sent pulses of electricity into the ground, creating standing waves that circled the planet. And it worked. Sort of. Tesla successfully transmitted enough power through the Earth to light 200 incandescent bulbs, 26 miles away, with no wires connecting them. The electricity traveled through the ground, resonating with the Earth's natural frequency, and was picked up by receiving coils tuned to match. But there was a problem. The energy dissipated quickly. Tesla could transmit significant power over short distances, but over continental distances, the signal faded. The Earth wasn't a perfect conductor. There was too much resistance, too much interference. Tesla believed he could solve this problem by building a massive transmitter and tuning it precisely to the Earth's resonant frequency. If he could pump enough energy into the system, he could create a standing wave of electricity that would circle the globe indefinitely, and anyone anywhere could tap into it with a simple receiving antenna. He convinced J.P. Morgan to fund the construction of Wardenclyffe Tower in New York, a 187-foot-tall structure designed to be the first of many worldwide wireless power transmission stations. But Morgan pulled funding in 1905 when he realized Tesla's plan meant free energy for everyone. You can't meter the Earth's resonant frequency. You can't charge people for tapping into a planetary standing wave. Tesla's tower was never completed. It was demolished in 1917. His dream of wireless power transmission died with it, but Tesla's insights didn't die. He had proven that resonance could transmit energy across vast distances. He had demonstrated that every object, every structure, even the planet itself, has a natural frequency that can be identified and exploited. And he had made a claim that would echo through physics for the next century. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Tesla believed that everything, matter, energy, consciousness, even time and space, was ultimately vibration at different frequencies. This wasn't mysticism to Tesla, it was physics. But Tesla couldn't prove it mathematically. He thought in images and intuitions, not equations. The mathematical proof that energy and matter are the same thing, that reality itself is vibration, would come from a patent clerk in Switzerland who would change physics forever with 5 characters. The year is 1905. Albert Einstein is 26 years old, working 6 days a week at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern, evaluating applications for electromagnetic devices and synchronization systems for railway clocks. It's mind-numbing work. But Einstein uses his spare time to think about light. Specifically, he's been thinking about a problem that has haunted physics for decades. If light is a wave, what is it waving through? Ocean waves move through water. Sound waves move through air. But light travels through the vacuum of space, where there's supposedly nothing. Physicists proposed that space must be filled with an invisible substance called the luminiferous ether, the medium through which light waves propagate. Newton had believed in the ether. Maxwell had built his equations of electromagnetism, assuming the ether existed. But Einstein realizes something is wrong with this picture. If the ether exists, then Earth's motion through it should create an aether wind that affects the speed of light in different directions. Experiments had been done to detect this wind. They found nothing. Light always travels at the same speed, regardless of direction, regardless of the motion of the source or observer. This shouldn't be possible. If you're on a train moving 60 miles per hour and you throw a ball forward at 20 miles per hour, The ball moves at 80 miles per hour relative to the ground. Velocities add, that's common sense. But light doesn't work this way. If you're on a spaceship moving at half the speed of light and you shine a flashlight forward, the light doesn't travel at 1.5 times the speed of light. It travels at exactly the speed of light, same as if you were standing still. This violated everything physics understood about motion, unless Einstein has an insight that will shatter the foundations of physics. What if the speed of light isn't just constant? What if it's the fundamental speed of the universe, the rate at which causality itself propagates? What if time and space aren't fixed backgrounds but flexible dimensions that adjust themselves to keep the speed of light constant for all observers? It sounds insane, but Einstein follows the mathematics, and the mathematics works. In June 1905, he publishes a paper titled On the Electrodynamics of Moving Bodies. Today we call it the special theory of relativity. The paper reveals something shocking. Time is not absolute. Time passes at different rates, depending on your motion. A clock moving near the speed of light runs slower than a stationary clock. This isn't an illusion. It's a real, measurable effect. Space and time are connected space-time, and they bend and flex to preserve the constancy of light speed. But Einstein doesn't stop there. He realizes that if time is flexible, then energy and mass might be related in ways nobody had imagined. In September 1905, he publishes a 3-page paper titled, Does the Inertia of a Body Depend upon its Energy Content? This paper contains the most famous equation in history, E(ax²). Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. 3 variables. 5 characters, the secret of the universe. What does this equation actually mean? It means that mass and energy are the same thing in different forms. It means that matter is concentrated energy, extremely concentrated energy, because the speed of light squared is a huge number. Let me give you a sense of scale. 1 kilogram of matter contains about 90 quadrillion joules of energy. That's enough to power a city of 1 million people for several days. That's the energy released when an atomic bomb detonates. All matter is frozen light, condensed vibration, solidified frequency. This is exactly what Tesla had claimed. It's what Newton had suspected. It's what Muhammad had taught, that the physical world is Allah's speech made manifest. Divine vibration taking solid form. Einstein had proven it mathematically. But the implications go even deeper. If matter is concentrated energy and energy is vibration, then different types of matter must correspond to different vibrational frequencies. This is precisely what quantum mechanics would reveal over the next 2 decades. Electrons don't orbit atoms in smooth paths like planets. They exist in specific energy levels, specific vibrational states. When an electron jumps from one energy level to another, it absorbs or emits a photon of light with a frequency exactly matching the energy difference. Every atom vibrates at specific frequencies. These frequencies are so precise that we use them to define time itself. The second is officially defined as 9,192,631,770 vibrations of a cesium-133 atom in a specific energy transition. Time is literally counting vibrations. Einstein's relativity reveals something even stranger. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. Why? Because motion is vibration oscillation through space, and there's a maximum rate at which anything can oscillate, the speed of light. When you move faster, more of your total vibration goes into spatial oscillation, leaving less available for temporal oscillation. You're still vibrating at the same total rate the speed of light through space-time, but the proportion allocated to space versus time changes. This is why time slows down at high speeds. It's why GPS satellites must adjust their clocks. They're moving fast enough that time runs slightly faster for them than for us on the ground. If this correction isn't made, GPS would be off by miles within hours. Einstein's equations are literally programmed into every smartphone on Earth, constantly correcting for relativistic time dilation to keep your location accurate. But Einstein wasn't done. In 1915, he published his masterwork, The General Theory of Relativity. This extended special relativity to include gravity and acceleration. What Einstein discovered is that gravity isn't a force in the Newtonian sense. Gravity is the curvature of space-time itself. Massive objects don't pull on other objects. They bend the fabric of space and time, and objects follow the curved paths geodesics through this bent space-time. But here's the key insight. Space-time isn't static, it's dynamic, it vibrates. When massive objects accelerate, when stars explode, when black holes merge, when neutron stars spiral into each other, they create ripples in space-time. Gravitational waves. These are literally vibrations in the fabric of reality, traveling at the speed of light. Einstein predicted gravitational waves in 1916, but they were so weak, so subtle, that he thought they could never be detected. It would require measuring changes in distance smaller than the width of a proton across distances of miles. It took a century to build detectors sensitive enough. In 2015, the LIGO observatories detected gravitational waves for the first time. Two black holes, 1.3 billion light-years away, had spiraled into each other, releasing more energy in a fraction of a second than all the stars in the observable universe combined. That energy rippled through space-time as gravitational waves, and when those waves passed through Earth, they compressed and stretched space itself by less than 1/10,000th the width of a proton. And we heard it. We literally listened to space-time vibrating, ringing like a bell struck by colliding black holes. Do you realize what this means? Muhammad was right. Newton was right. Tesla was right. Einstein proved they were all right. The universe is vibration. All of it. Every part. Matter is vibration. All of it. Every part. Matter is vibration. Energy is vibration. Space is vibration. Time is vibration. Gravity is vibration. Light is vibration. Night is vibration. Consciousness itself, the electrical patterns in your brain reading these words right now, is vibration. And here's where it all comes together, where all four minds meet at the same profound truth. So what does this mean? What does it mean that a 7th century prophet, a 17th century mathematician, a 19th century inventor, and a 20th century physicist all discovered the same fundamental principle? It means that reality is not what it seems. You think you're a solid object made of solid matter, living in a solid world. But you're not. You're a pattern of vibration, a frequency, a wave in the ocean of space-time. Every atom in your body is 99.9999999% empty space. If you removed all the empty space from all the atoms in all the humans on Earth, the entire human race would fit into a cube the size of a sugar cube. So what are you really? You're the pattern. You're the vibration. You're the frequency signature that maintains its coherence over time. And everything you interact with is also vibration. When you touch something, your electrons don't actually touch its electrons. The electromagnetic fields, vibrating fields, repel each other. Touch is electromagnetic vibration, pushing against electromagnetic vibration. When you see something, photons, vibrations of the electromagnetic field bounce off it and enter your eye, where they cause chemical vibrations in your retina, which cause electrical vibrations in your optic nerve, which cause complex vibrational patterns in your visual cortex. Sight is vibration-detecting vibration. Hearing is vibration-detecting vibration through a different frequency range. Smell is vibration molecules vibrating in the air detected by vibrational receptors in your nose. Taste is molecular vibration detected by vibrational receptors on your tongue. All perception is vibration detecting vibration. But here's where it gets profound. Your thoughts are vibrations. Memories are vibrational patterns stored in synaptic connections. Emotions are vibrational patterns in neurotransmitter systems. When you think, you're creating specific patterns of electrical vibration in your brain, and these vibrations can resonate with the vibrations around you. This isn't mysticism, it's measurable science. Studies have shown that when people develop strong emotional bonds, their brainwaves synchronize. When musicians play together, their neural activity becomes coherent. When you're in a conversation with someone you're connected to, your brainwaves literally entrain, they fall into resonance. The same thing happens with heartbeats. When romantic partners sit near each other, their hearts begin to beat in synchrony. Not exactly the same rate, but in harmonic ratios. Resonance. You are constantly exchanging vibrational information with your environment. You're not separate from the universe. You're a localized pattern of vibration within a unified field of vibration. This is what Muhammad taught when he said everything in existence performs dhikr, glorifies God through its natural frequency. You're part of that cosmic symphony. This is what Newton discovered when he saw pendulums synchronizing, energy and information transfer through resonance. This is what Tesla demonstrated when he wirelessly transmitted power. Resonance allows energy to flow between systems tuned to the same frequency. This is what Einstein proved when he showed that matter and energy are interchangeable, different vibrational frequencies of the same underlying reality. Let me get very specific about how this discovery, this understanding that everything is vibration affects your daily life. Your smartphone is a vibration detection and generation device. The touchscreen detects capacitance changes caused by the electrical field vibrations in your finger. The processor operates by controlling the vibration of electrons through billions of transistors. The screen creates light by controlling the vibration of pixels at different frequencies to produce different colors. When you make a call, your voice vibrations in air is converted to electrical vibrations, which are converted to electromagnetic vibrations that travel through the air at light speed, which are converted back to electrical vibrations, which are converted back to sound vibrations. Communication is the art of converting between different vibrational frequencies. Your Wi-Fi router sends information by varying the frequency and phase of electromagnetic waves at 2.4 or 5 GHz. These specific frequencies were chosen because they resonate through air without being absorbed by water vapor, allowing them to pass through walls but not get blocked by rain. Your microwave oven heats food by generating electromagnetic waves at 2.45 GHz, the resonant frequency of water molecules. When water molecules absorb energy at this frequency, they begin rotating rapidly, creating friction heat. This is Tesla's principle of resonance applied to cooking. Every medical imaging technology uses vibration. X-rays are high-frequency electromagnetic vibrations that pass through soft tissue but are absorbed by bone. MRI machines use powerful magnets to align the nuclear spin of hydrogen atoms, then detect the radio frequency vibrations they emit when returning to normal. Ultrasound uses high-frequency sound vibrations that echo off internal structures. Even your sense of balance uses vibration. Inside your inner ear are 3 semicircular canals filled with fluid and tiny hair cells. When you move your head, the fluid moves, causing the hair cells to vibrate, sending electrical signals to your brain about your orientation. You navigate the world through vibration detection. But here's something most people never think about. Your emotions are vibrational states. When you feel anxious, your nervous system is vibrating at a high, irregular frequency. When you feel calm, your nervous system vibrates at a slower, more coherent frequency. This is why breathing exercises work. By consciously controlling your breath rhythm, the vibration of your diaphragm, you can entrain your nervous system to vibrate at a calmer frequency. Deep, slow breathing at about 6 breaths per minute creates resonance with your heart rate variability, activating your parasympathetic nervous system. This is why music affects emotions. Musical frequencies literally resonate with emotional centers in your brain. Certain frequencies trigger the release of dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. Music is direct emotional frequency manipulation. This is why spending time in nature feels restorative. Natural environments produce complex harmonious vibrations: birdsong, wind, water, the rustle of leaves. These frequencies resonate with your nervous system in ways that urban noise, chaotic, dissonant vibrations doesn't. You're constantly being influenced by the vibrational environment around you, and you're constantly influencing it. When you speak, you're transmitting vibrations that resonate with the people around you, not just through sound, but through subtle electromagnetic fields generated by your nervous system. Studies have shown that human biofields, the weak electromagnetic fields produced by our bodies, can be detected several feet away and influence the biofields of others. This is the physical basis for what we call presence or charisma. Some people generate coherent, powerful biofield vibrations that entrain the nervous systems of people around them. This is real. This is real. Now we come to the most profound implication, the one that connects all four of these minds at the deepest level. If everything is vibration, and consciousness is a phenomenon of the brain, and the brain operates through electrical and chemical vibrations, then consciousness itself must be a vibrational phenomenon. But consciousness isn't just any vibration. It's vibration that's aware of itself. It's the universe oscillating in a pattern complex enough to observe its own oscillation. Think about that for a moment. You are matter organized in such a way that it can contemplate its own existence. You are the universe asking questions about itself. Muhammad understood this. In Islamic philosophy, humans are called khalifa, representatives or mirrors of the divine. We reflect God's attributes through our consciousness. We're the universe becoming conscious of itself. Newton understood this. He spent the last decades of his life studying theology and alchemy, convinced that consciousness was fundamental to the universe, not an accidental byproduct of matter. Tesla understood this. He believed consciousness was a receiver, not a generator, that individual minds were like radio receivers tuned to different frequencies of a universal consciousness field. Einstein resisted this idea for most of his life. He famously said, "God does not play dice," when quantum mechanics suggested reality was probabilistic at the fundamental level. But late in life, Einstein began to suspect that consciousness might be more fundamental than matter. Modern physics is starting to agree. The measurement problem in quantum mechanics, the fact that particles exist in superposition until observed, then collapse into definite states, suggests that consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping reality. Some physicists now propose that consciousness might be a fundamental property of the universe, like mass or charge, not something that emerges from complex computation, but something that's woven into the fabric of space-time itself. If this is true, if consciousness is a fundamental frequency of reality, then several mind-blowing possibilities emerge. First, you might not be generating consciousness. You might be receiving it, like a radio tuning into a broadcast. Your brain doesn't create awareness, it filters and focuses a universal awareness into an individual perspective. Second, death might not end consciousness. It might just be a change in frequency. When your brain stops vibrating, the consciousness tuned to that particular frequency continues, but tunes to different frequencies. Third, all consciousness might be connected at the fundamental level. Individual minds might be like waves on an ocean seemingly separate, but ultimately all part of the same water, all vibrating together. This is exactly what Muhammad taught about the nature of the soul. It's what Tesla believed about the nature of mind. It's what Einstein began to suspect in his final years. So what's the hidden thread? What's the single truth that a 7th century prophet, a 7th century mathematician, a 19th century inventor, and a 20th century visitor all discovered? Reality is not made of things. It's made of events, processes, vibrations. What you call a table is actually trillions of atoms vibrating in a pattern stable enough to persist over time. What you call yourself is a pattern of vibrations complex enough to be self-aware. Nothing is permanent. Everything flows. Everything vibrates. Everything is in constant transformation from one state to another. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." The water molecules are different. The cells in your body are different. The cells in your body, but the pattern persists. The vibration continues. This is the fundamental insight that unites science and spirituality, physics and philosophy, East and West, ancient and modern. You are not a thing that changes. You are change itself. temporarily stable, temporarily coherent, temporarily aware of being temporary. And because your vibration, you can change your frequency. You can choose what you resonate with. You can tune yourself to different states of being. This is why practices like meditation, prayer, music, art, nature immersion, and loving connection feel transformative. They're not just psychological, they're actual frequency adjustments. They change the vibrational state of your nervous system, your biofield, your consciousness itself. Muhammad knew this and taught specific practices to tune consciousness to higher frequencies. Newton knew this and spent decades trying to find the mathematical harmonies underlying all existence. Tesla knew this and dedicated his life to harnessing resonance to transform civilization. Einstein knew this and showed that energy, matter, space, and time are all aspects of a single unified field. 4 minds, 4 centuries, 4 completely different approaches, one truth. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency. Everything is vibration. You're not in the universe. You are the universe, expressed as a localized pattern of vibration, temporarily coherent, temporarily aware, temporarily able to choose what frequency you vibrate at. So the question becomes, what frequency do you want to resonate with? Because the answer to that question determines everything: your thoughts, your emotions, your health, your relationships, your entire experience of being alive. You are not observing reality. You are reality observing itself. And now you know the secret that Muhammad intuited, Newton calculated, Tesla demonstrated, and Einstein proved. There is no solid ground beneath your feet. There is only vibration, all the way down, and all the way up, and all the way through. Welcome to the universe, as it actually is, not a collection of objects in space, but a unified field of vibration, experiencing itself from infinite perspectives, yours being one of them. The hidden thread was always there. These 4 minds just pulled on it from different directions, revealing the same fundamental truth. Now you see it too.